Okay, part 2 of our analysis of the Haydn. Let's continue on at this score. And so we've gotten to this spot that it is about 1 minute and 45 seconds in, or just before that. So start listening just a little bit before that. And one of the things that when you're noting in harmony, your ears will probably just intuitively say something different is happening here. Like we're leaving the chords or we're leaving the keys. And then we're going to use our eyes here to try to make sense of what's happening in the score next. So right about here, the visual cue for that is when you start to see a lot of notes outside of the key signature and the same notes consistently happening outside of the key signature. So as we're looking at this, we've got G, G sharp, which is definitely not in our home key of G major, and then A, but it seems like it's probably just a passing tone that gets us along the way to that A. Now we have A, G sharp, A, G sharp. Let's take a look at the chords that are happening above that. So we have A, C sharp, E, E, C sharp. So it looks like, if we're just checking this out, we've got C sharp and E and A. So in this first measure, here, A major is the chord happening. For now, since we do not yet know what key we might be in, and we know that A major does not fit in this key, it should be A, C, E, A minor, so we have a chord outside the key. We're just going to leave it for now. Now here we have G sharp, B, and E. And E and B. So if we're looking at that, E, G sharp, and B happening across most of the spots, and we have that E continuing here. That is going to be an E major chord, and of course in inversion. So looking at that E major first inversion. That's happening in this part of the measure here. So A major, E major first inversion, A major, E major first inversion. And that's happening until we get to here, and then we just stop and land on this A. So the spot that we're looking for to tell whether or not we might be in a new key, or we might be leaning towards new key, or even just staying somewhere for a while, is if we consistently see a similar accidental. So what I'm looking out for right now is I see this C sharp here, and I see this A major chord, and I'm trying to figure out if we might be heading into the key of A or possibly some other key. So C sharp is kind of the note we're looking out for, but I'm also seeing this B flat happening a lot. And I'm seeing this F happening a lot. So F natural, and we've got B flat. Interesting that we might be going to some other key. So we've got that going on. C sharp is here. And we continue on. And so what I'm noticing here is we have a lot of C sharp and we have a lot of B flat. So that's what I'm looking. We have A here. And looking at the other notes that are happening, C sharp E, C sharp E, C sharp E. Then A, E, G. So this looks like it's an A dominant 7 chord. Just by figuring out generally what notes are happening, what are our repeated notes. So A. Now, A is the dominant of D. So if we're looking at this A, does it seem like it's going to some sort of D chord? And if we're looking here, D, D, D happening across a lot of that. It looks like it's very clearly stating that D is what's going on in this measure. Now, because we only have it in unison, it's hard to tell if it's D major or minor. But for now, I'm just noting that D seems to be our most common chord here. Again, this would go much quicker if I were writing by text, but this is what we're working with right now. So I know D is happening. Let's take a look at some other clues that might say whether or not it would be a D major chord or D minor chord. We have F, which would imply D minor, and F sharp, which would imply D major. So it's F minor for a little bit longer. It's too close to tell at this point. But by the time we get to here, we have, kind of this little phrase or theme happening. We have D, D, F sharp happening pretty repeatedly in that. So when D is happening, F sharp seems to be happening in the violin part as well in this section. So it looks like we are mostly hanging out in the key of D major. And the way that we can also tell that we're in D major is C sharp, noting that if we are in the key of G major here, all the C's are C natural. So what we have here is a modulation to D major, which is also known as the 5 chord, also known as the dominant, so the dominant chord in the key of G. So suddenly D, E, F sharp still because of the key signature, and we're going to start seeing these C sharps everywhere in here, mostly as a part of an A major chord. So we've got A, C sharp, E, and that's going to always want to pull back, so that C sharp is pulling up to D. So C sharp pulls to D. You can see that in the Haydn, where we've got C sharp, D, and C sharp back to D. Not that that's always going to be that obvious, but if we have, those chords happening, that can be another hint that we're in the key of D major. And looking further down the line, we have more C sharps here, more C sharps here, spending more time just on the key of D. So it's establishing, hey everyone, we're in the key of D. Then he moves on. So what I would like you to do is to check out what this chord is, and then what chord is happening in this measure, looking at all the different parts. Then this measure, and then we get on to this section here. And note, just like before, when we have drastic changes in what's happening in the melody, what's happening in the instrumentation, where we go from everyone playing, and what's happening in dynamics, where we go from forte down to a piano dynamic, you can mark that in your timestamp as where it is in the recording and listen to it. But if you think, how is he changing a lot of different parts all together? And what is he changing? What is he working towards? So that's, how I'd recommend familiarizing yourself with this first movement of the Haydn. Go through, listen along, see what you see, and hear what you hear. If there's any spots where you see a lot of the same accidental, or you see everything change, lots of instruments come in or drop out, make a note of that and figure out what musical element, based on the IB prompt, you're referring to that as. I would also always recommend putting a big mark at the, let's see, can I change that color easily? Nope. At the repeat section, because when you're listening, that's where it's going to jump back all the way to that opening theme here. So as you're listening along, when you're on your paper copy, you'll need to turn the page back several times to get back to there, and then it repeats. So that's kind of an intro idea for what's going on. As you go through chords for this next section, so beginning at measure 107, this new part, you'll find more accidentals, you'll find less consistency within that, but that can be a good way to explore and use your ears and say, what's happening in this? What chords are happening? What notes are happening? And even if you can't say, okay, it seems like it's exactly this chord or the 4 chord or the 5 chord, etc., at least noting what notes are happening in what part, and that'll help you come to some conclusions and some ideas from there about what's going on. So I'm seeing C, and I'm seeing, a D flat. That's an unusual thing to have above a C. And I'm seeing B flat, A flat, G. So we've got all sorts of interesting harmony. So listen to that. We've got B flat and E natural going on above that C. So as you're listening, try to figure out what's going on and what the effect of when you're listening to it. So, what does it sound like here and why does it sound like that? So make some notes in your score, type up some observations, let me know what you think, and I will give you some more info and some more ideas for how to make sense of what's going on in this piece in a bit.